Memories are delicate things, gossamer threads that fade and blur with time. Some memories become so distant, so weathered, that they feel like dreams, half remembered. It takes true artistry to reach back through decades and touch something authentic, to make you feel exactly as you did in a moment long past. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is that rare work of art, a time machine crafted with such precision that it can resurrect emotions buried for nearly 30 years. I was 12 years old. This game was everything. It was more than a story. It was a revelation. And now at 40, it's something else entirely. Rebirth is a dream. I think it's something that most fans of the original never thought that we would get.
Look! Look!
It was always like a wish list item, but you can't actually do it.
God, it looks so good. It's crazy how good this game looks. That's the thing, every once in a while it just hits you. You're looking at something and you're like, oh, dang. I can't believe this is real.
This is such a rare thing that these developers are doing. I can't think of any parallel. There's nothing that has been remade to this extent. The creators of Rebirth are true masters. They understood something profound about memory, that it can never truly be recreated, only approached from different angles. But there's a calculated pain in their artistry that can't be ignored. This isn't just a game, it's an emotional minefield. They knew exactly what they were doing, evoking conflicting, almost cruel emotions in fans who have carried these memories for decades.
Whoa. I do remember this in the original game.
Ooh, look at that, dude.
There she is. The gold saucer. Wow. Look at that. This looks amazing. Oh my god.
I respect their vision, even as part of me almost resents the depth of feeling they've unleashed. This isn't a remake, it's an exploration of remembering. They know they can never recreate the exact emotional experience of the original. So instead they've done something even more complex. They've created a work that deliberately plays with our expectations, that shows us how memories shift and change. The game doesn't try to be original, it tries to be a conversation with the original. Cloud remains perfect, impossibly so. Whether in 1997 or now, he's a character I can't fully explain, yet I understand completely. He is vulnerability wrapped in steel, uncertainty disguised as resolve, a broken hero who doesn't know he's broken, who carries the world's weight with a silence that speaks volumes. His dry, emo sense of humor is so good.
Meet Cloud Jr.
Kill me.
He's constantly falling in love with girls.
Here, this is for you.
He's constantly trying to save them, but he doesn't know any better. Only thing he knows is how to be a reluctant hero. I love him so much for that. Aerith is his counterpoint, omniscient and playful, with a perspective that transcends the immediate narrative. She sees everything, not just the events unfolding around them, but the very fabric of possibility itself.
Take it.
But your mom gave that to you.
This isn't about me, though. It's about saving the world. And you.
Where Cloud is constrained by his immediate experience, Aerith moves with a god's eye view, understanding the multiple threads of potential futures. I've heard people talk about how they think Aerith is a downgrade in Rebirth from Remake. I disagree. I think Aerith is incredible, and she's still the one. Their connection is unlike any romantic relationship in fiction.
Hey.
It's not about traditional love, but about two souls who fundamentally recognize each other. Aerith, like Cloud, is a misfit, She's a bit broken, but I love her optimism, and I love how she's always bringing everyone up around her. She's the healer. I think Aerith has never been better than in Rebirth. Aerith sees through Cloud's carefully constructed facade, understanding the wounded spirit beneath. Cloud, in turn, is drawn to her luminous certainty, her ability to exist fully in moments that terrify him. Her forwardness with Cloud wasn't just about limited time, it was fundamentally who she was. She grabbed Cloud's hand, she teased him, she saw through his tough exterior with a kind of knowing that felt magical. Her innocence and inexperience with love bubbled through every interaction, direct, unafraid, completely present. The naivety of me, the ignorance of a boy who doesn't understand love, I remember it well. Trying to understand the relationship between Cloud and Aerith, it's feelings like that this remake trilogy is bringing out, and I'm so appreciative of it. I'm so thankful for it. Rebirth understands that nostalgia is never simple. It's not about perfectly preserving a memory. It's about understanding how memories transform us. The game is long, sometimes frustratingly so.
I don't know, man. I don't know about these open worlds. Like, they're super beautiful to look at. I wish they were a little bit shorter. They don't need to be as long to me. Like, there's so much good about this game, but then, it's a little exhausting too.
There's been a lot of discussion on the open world and all the checklist items and how that can drag on the mini games, but then people say, well, you don't have to do it all. And that's true, you don't. I also think that the linear story sections are too long. Like all the minecart riding, the platforming with Yuffie, all of that is just, it outstays its welcome. It's not necessary, and it adds length to an already way too long game, in my opinion.
This is kind of another example of a scene here that just seems a little bit unnecessary. We're literally just driving around in circles. That was the worst part of the whole game for me so far. I mean, it's like irritating. This game is already so long, and it's one thing to be non-essential, it's another thing to waste my time. It kind of put me in a bad mood. I kind of don't want to play this anymore.
I think this game falls in a weird place to where they're trying to extract so much emotion and nostalgia from the fans of the original, from that time, and they do an effective job. They do a really good job at bringing out those emotions. But then it's padded out, it's long, it's cumbersome. I know people are going to disagree with me. My biggest problem with the game is that there's too much to do in it. I also think that that's on purpose. It mirrors how memories stretch and distort over time. How what once felt immediate becomes something we must navigate carefully. Now, having played this, having played Remake and having played Rebirth, I think that everything is intentional. And I think the manipulation of how I feel about this game, having this sort of bitter aftertaste after playing this, is also on purpose. We'll never be as innocent as we were when we first played this. We'll never be as surprised as we first were. They can subvert expectations, but we'll never feel that same way. And that's okay. Many players will love this expansiveness. For me, it feels like walking through a museum of my own past. In the original game, Aerith's death was final, absolute, a wound that couldn't be healed. Rebirth offers something more complicated, a deliberate, almost provocative reimagining of that sacred narrative moment. The multiple timelines aren't a retreat from emotional complexity, but a bold, calculated artistic statement. I don't like the multiple timelines aspect to all this, but I appreciate that that's part of what goes to making this all feel a little bit artificial, slightly hollow, and ultimately unfulfilling. The developers knew exactly what they were doing, creating a narrative that would deliberately unsettle longtime fans. We don't want everything all the ways. We don't want her to be alive in some timelines and dead in others and stuck between worlds and different ones. This is not an attempt to soften the original's emotional landscape. It's a direct challenge to our collective memory. I don't really even like that Zack is in this. Partly Zack doesn't work for me because of what he's relegated to in this remake trilogy. I don't like that he's sort of the one stuck between worlds, pulling on the threads, taking any sort of autonomy or agency away from the characters that I like more. I don't really like his voice acting in this game. I don't think he's a cool character, and I just kind of think he's a nerd. The bitter flavor they've created is intentional. It forces us to confront the futility of nostalgia and trying to recreate something exactly as it was. It was not an easy path. It wasn't a safe path, but it was effective. The final cinematic strikes a deeply unsettling chord. The entire team sits out in the grass before flying away, ostensibly mourning Aerith's death.
It's not fair.
But something feels wrong. The scene looks familiar, like a memory you almost recognize, but something is off.
Aerith?
It doesn't smell the same. There's an eerie asymmetry that speaks volumes. And it feels weird, and I don't really like it. By introducing these fractured timelines, they're making a profound statement about the impossibility of truly recreating or preserving our memories.
The reunion.
We cannot live in the past. Memories shift, fragment, and ultimately slip away. It sort of feels wrong in a way, like I should have just let these memories be left alone.
Now let's go get Sephiroth. He's hiding up north.
Alright, fine. We trust you. Just remember, we got everything riding on this. And that's a load you'd best be ready to carry.
Barrett's words carry a different weight. He's not challenging Cloud, but expressing a deeper weariness.
Don't worry about me. I can handle it.
The mission is long, the danger is real, and Cloud is clearly wounded, not just physically, but emotionally. Barrett recognizes the toll of their journey, the fragility of their hope. His comment about the burden feels less like doubt and more like a moment of raw, shared grief. They are all mourning. They are all exhausted, and the path ahead remains treacherous.
You gonna be okay getting back? You gonna be okay getting home?
And if I said I wasn't?
Cloud's declaration that he'll stop Sephiroth rings hollow.
Aerith. I will stop Sephiroth. Trust me.
He seems to be lying to himself and to Aerith.
You promise?
Promise.
His words carry the weight of a performance rather than a genuine conviction. Aerith seems to see through this immediately. She knows.
I'm sorry.
This subtle manipulation of expectation becomes the breaking point for me. The game is transformed from a nostalgic revisitation to something more complex and unsettling.
Whatever happens, don't blame yourself.
The real gift of Rebirth isn't recreating the past. It's showing us how we've changed. Final Fantasy VII remains the most important game I've ever played. Not because it's perfect, not because it's unchanged, but because it continues to grow with me. And perhaps most importantly, the developers have given me something I didn't know I needed. An off-ramp. By purposely manipulating my memories, by making the journey just complex and unsavory enough, they've created a point of departure for me. They understood that not every story needs to be followed to its absolute conclusion. It teaches me how to remember, how to let go. This is where I will leave this story and these characters. The third game in the remake trilogy will remain unplayed. This moment of complexity and uncertainty serving as my final chapter.